I'll call the meeting to order and have our clerk call roll. Bartlett.
Here.
Hirsch.
Here.
Gittleson.
Here.
Swadley.
Here.
Boersma.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Majewski.
Here.
Engelberger.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Truhl.
Here.
And Reeves and O'Connor are absent and excused, so we have 10 alders tonight. Thank you. Are there any communications from our alderpersons this evening? I think folks would like to hear an update about the RDA meetings in Charette over the weekend. Alderperson Hirsch?
Sure, thank you. And Scott chimed in, and
Yep.
anybody else that was there. The charrettes were very well attended, and I want to thank all the community members that showed up, and staff, city staff, and council members that did show up. We got a lot of feedback, a lot of great ideas. The master developer and the architectural team were fantastic. The architectural team was just so enthusiastic with a lot of the ideas that people were coming up with, and they were drawing on the spot. And the final presentation on Sunday night, they gave, kind of a conglomerate of what they were hearing over the weekend. They're going to refine it. It was just little boxes at that point, but it was really good, and I can't say anything more. It was very well run, and we had lots and lots of input.
Great. And more information coming when that refinement at the end of this month?
Yeah, I think there might be a meeting. We're going to discuss it at RDA tomorrow, but it's proposed for June 28th.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds great. Alderperson Engelberger.
Thank you,
Art
Heather.
Walk.
Yeah, I just wanted to report on the art walk that we held on Saturday. It was overwhelming success from everything that we've heard so far. We had artists in the shops downtown, 36 artists in 25 locations, and heard nothing but good comments from our businesses. They all did well. The weather was a little warm, but we hope to do it next year. There's a survey out for the artists and for the businesses, so hopefully they'll get that information back, and we'll have a improved art walk next year.
Great. Sounds like a great weekend. We also had our very first Parade of Homes in town over the weekend. And Rodney, have you heard about how that went?
We heard it was well attended. It compared to some of the attendance in some of the other communities for the opening weekend. So the local folks are very pleased with the attendance for the first weekend.
That's great. Busy weekend in town. Very cool. This next weekend has a lot of things going on too. Friday night is the Relay for Life, the cancer fundraiser at Mant Park, and the opening ceremonies are at 6 o'clock in front of the grandstand. And as you all recall, it's an overnight thing where folks decorate their tents in the theme. And I apologize, I can't remember what the theme is this year. But they decorate your tents and the campsites in theme. And then it's always, it's McFarland, Oregon, and Stoughton. So the two village presidents and I get to judge the best campsite. And then they walk and just really kind of celebrate life all night long, and then they have a ceremony again Saturday morning, bright and early. So, good event for town. Are there other communications this evening? Alderperson or Council President Swadley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to let the council and the community know that the mayor and I had a meeting with Ford Development Group last week to discuss the Highway 138 access, and they're continuing to work with the DOT, and hopefully we'll have more news here in the next month or so.
Absolutely. I just drove through well, not through, because that would be a ticket. I stopped at the stoplight on Jackson Street, Jackson and 51. The stoplight's now in order. I did stop. I didn't drive through it. So that's up and going. Some good things going on. All right, we'll move on then to a update on historic preservation ordinances from Attorney Dregney.
Thank you, Your Honor. The council, I'm sure, recalls that I was asked to work with the Landmarks Commission to address issues arising under the city's ordinances relating to historic preservation. Issues really arising in two different chapters of the Code of Ordinances, Chapters 38 relating to historic preservation, Chapter 78, the city's zoning ordinance. On June 5th, I met with the chair of the Landmarks Commission, Peggy Varigan. We had a good meeting, and the purpose of that meeting was to prepare for a meeting later that week, June 8th, with the Landmarks Commission. We have identified, we've kind of taken the big picture and identified 9 different issues that we think really present policy decisions to be made by the city. And I went through those with the Landmarks Commission last week, Thursday. We had a good meeting. They gave me direction on 6 of those issues, and I think they took 3 of those issues as things that they needed to spend some more time on themselves before they could come to a conclusion about what to do or what their recommendations would be. We discussed process. We discussed whether I should continue working on this. Alderperson Swadley suggested that I update the council on kind of the status of this and also kind of where the city is from a cost standpoint. I opened my file on this in February of this year. I spent some time on it in February. That was about $300 in February. There was then kind of a burst of work in March relating to the historic preservation ordinances in the city, how those related to a variety of issues in the city. That was about $2,200 of work. And then there really wasn't anything done in April and May. We were waiting to gear up, I guess. And then we have my time in June. So that was my preparing for and meeting with Peggy last week and then with the Landmarks Commission. And that was about $2,100. So the city has invested $4,791 in this matter to date. In my estimation, from my standpoint, much of the work that I need to do, I think, is done in terms of evaluating the ordinances, identifying the issues, organizing that for discussion. Now the process is Landmarks Commission, potentially then Plan Commission will need to play a role in this because some of the ordinances are zoning related and the Plan Commission has to weigh in on that, and then the City Council ultimately need to make the decisions on this. I anticipate attending meetings where those are discussed to kind of walk through the process and get direction. Once I get the direction, I can, I think, without too much difficulty, implement those changes in the ordinances, and that would be the last step of the process. So that's where we are. Happy to answer any questions. And yeah.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Attorney Dragney tonight? There may be as we go along, but I'm not seeing any yet this evening.
And I don't know, Alderperson Swadley, if you were looking for the council to kind of indicate keep going or?
Oh, yeah, I think that's where we're at. At the time we talked, we really didn't have a total of your services at that point, and I'm not sure what your intentions are as far as the next meeting, if that's something that we want to talk about at finance in 2 weeks. Do you know when your plans are as far as meeting Landmarks and or the Planning Commission?
So nothing is scheduled. My sense is that the Landmarks Commission, the chair of the commission, would contact me when she feels they are ready to meet with me again to discuss the remaining 3 issues on their list. And so then I would presumably meet with them, work through those issues. I think the thought was they would then make their recommendations and then it would go to Plan Commission for them to, review the issues and make their recommendations, and then to council. Now, of course, if the council wants to say, wait, we want to get involved in a little sooner and find out where you are on this, I'm happy to do that. So.
Sure. Well, personally, I'm okay with the 2 commissions working on it. Probably should get some blessing from finance. We want to be able to pay you for your services, so.
To keep going?
Yes. That would be my hopes, is that we could, finish this. It sounds like you're probably more than halfway there.
I think we're more than halfway there.
All right, so we'll look to put that on the next finance agenda. Any questions for Attorney Dragney, though, this evening?
I guess I do.
Sure. Alderman Kinnison.
We possibly see the stuff that you are working with them on?
Absolutely. I have prepared I've revised the PowerPoint presentation I did with the council earlier to, and that's kind of the working document right now. It identifies kind of what the big picture look is at our ordinances, what's covered, how it's covered, and then there is a list of issues, 9 issues, with options for how those issues might addressed. I would be happy to send that PowerPoint to the clerk or to whoever, and then you can make it available however you wish. I have not yet gone in and then noted in response to each issue, here's what the Plan Commission so far says it wants to do on that, and I want to kind of build that in, but I mean, I can certainly share with you the work product that we have to date.
It'd be kind of nice to be able to read through so we have a little bit of knowledge of what you're doing
Sure.
with that.
Sure, if you want to send that to Lana, she'll get it
We can-
posted.
I will absolutely get that out right away, and then you can figure out the best way to make it available.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
All right, and next, we're going to go to Lana with a liquor license overview.
Thank you.
It's that time of the year.
It is that time of the year. So in your packet for this evening, you will see that you have the liquor license renewals for the 2017-2018 term. And this sheet that's in your packet, and it's also up on the screen, is just a listing of the annual licenses that we have within the city and the different classes that they are. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different licenses and what applicants are able to do with them, and also talk about quotas and things of that nature. So moving from left to right, the very first license type that you see is what we call a Class A combination license. This is a retail license for stores to be able to sell intoxicating liquor and fermented malt beverages for off-site consumption. So this would be like Walmart, Pick and Save, the co-op, places like that. And then moving next is the Class A beer license or the fermented malt beverage license. These are licenses that are granted to the Quick Trips, for example, PDQ. This gives them the ability to sell fermented malt beverages and also cider for an off-premise consumption as well. Now, this license actually has a quota attached to it based on our ordinances. So we're only allowed by our ordinances to have 1 per 1,000 for our population. So we have 13 currently, but we've only issued 6. So I just wanted to make that known that we have the ability to issue 13, but we've only issued 6. And we've only had people apply for 6. Moving forward, the next one, the Class B combo, a lot of times it's referred to as a tavern license. This is probably the most popular one that you'll see in municipalities, and it's the most sought out license. We have 16 of these, the regular Class B combination licenses, and all 16 have been issued to various applicants within the city. This license is, again, a tavern license, so this is where you can get intoxicating alcohol or fermented malt beverage and consume it on site. So then the next thing, the next column after that, so those were the regulars. The next column is the reserve licenses. So it's the same license as the Class B combo. The only difference between the two is that the reserve license comes with a price tag. And this is something that's set by state statute. This is not set by local ordinance. For an applicant to receive a Class B combo reserve license, the applicant does have to pay a one-time fee of $10,000. Again, that's something set by the state, not by the municipality. And you will see too that of the reserves that we have available to us, we actually have 5 that are open and not have been issued at all. So we do have some available if an applicant wishes to have them. So that is an option as well.
And that $10,000 is not refundable, is that correct?
Correct. It
Used to be, but it's not any longer.
Yeah, it used to be where municipalities could decide how they were going to, or if they were going to, give any of that money back to the applicants, whether it be in a grant form or things of that nature. And the state took that away, Matt, what, 2 years ago now?
About
Couple
that.
years, yeah.
2015?
Yep.
So it's just a one-time fee. They don't have to pay it every year. And that's something that the city just holds on to. Yeah.
One of the questions that comes up often is, what happens if one of these other businesses that have the tavern license were to close down? Is that license transferable?
So, and this is my understanding, Matt, Phil.
This is a regular, non-reserve combination Class B, if it were to become available. Then, if it were to become available, then someone else could apply for it and obtain it, and they would not be subject to the $10,000 fee.
So what is the criteria as far as if you had multiple people that would apply for that?
First come, first serve at this point.
Right. You couldn't, what I hear Council President Swedley saying is, if I'm, let's just say I'm whatever bar, and I'm selling the bar, so I want to be sure and give that license to whoever's buying my bar. I can't do that.
Well, what happens is, typically these transactions are structured so that the owner of the bar who wants to sell, they surrender their license. They typically try and structure it carefully so that they would surrender, and then it would be issued to their buyer. And then they usually have to coordinate the closing on their sale with the licensing process. It's a little complicated. It can be done. They don't have the right, though, on their own to transfer it.
Okay.
The city council reserves the right to choose to approve or not approve the license.
Thank you.
So then moving to the next column is the Class B beer license or fermented malt beverage license. This is a license that restaurants can use, primarily restaurants, if they wish to be able to serve beer while guests enjoy their meal, but don't want to apply for the full tavern license. And then same thing with the Class C wine in the next column. This is also an on-premise consumption license that is available to restaurants specifically. Again, have a glass of wine while you enjoy your meal. And then the last one is the Class B winery, and it's the only one that we have here. It's for Mershon's, the cidery out in Business Park. So that is a license that we had granted them, and they are required to have state permitting before we can even consider that license. So just wanted to give a little overview about the different licenses. One thing that you'll notice that isn't on here are your temporary Class B retailer licenses or special event licenses. Those are not annual licenses that people renew for the whole year. Those are a short-term, again, special event license. Setnamai is a great example. They do renew it every year, but it's not for a set term. It kind of depends on when Setnamai is going to be.
And they have to come before Public Safety and Council every time they wish to get that.
Yep. Any questions for me?
Questions for Lana? All right. Thank you, Lana. That helps. That helps a lot. So next on our agenda is the public comment period. And at this point, I don't have anyone registered to speak at the public comment period. And for those of you at home, the chuckling is because no one is here. So that's okay. They're listening at home, I'm sure. We'll move along to the consent agenda. Excuse me. Our consent agenda tonight consists of the May 23rd, 2017 council minutes, Resolution 78 of 2017, which is coming from our Personnel Committee, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the update to the work rules holiday policy to strike 4 hours on New Year's Eve and 4 hours on Christmas Eve afternoon, and instead have employees receive 8 hours on the Christmas Eve day. Resolution 79 of 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve updated city work rules as it pertains to CDL licenses, and this was approved by personnel on a 4-to-1 vote. Resolution 80 of 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the liquor license renewals for the period of July 1st, 2017 to June 30, 2018, approved unanimously at the last Public Safety Committee meeting. Resolution 81 of 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the outdoor consumption permits for the period of July 1st, 2017 to June 30th of 2018, approved unanimously at the last Public Safety Committee meeting. And that is our consent agenda.
Move for approval of this consent agenda.
There's a motion by Boersma, second by Majewski, to approve the consent agenda. Does any alderperson wish to remove any item from that consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. We don't have old business going forward this evening. New business begins with Resolution 82 of 2017. This comes from our Finance Committee. Alderman Majewski. I'm sorry, I surprised you. Alderperson
I'm usually
O'Connor
not the
is our
fi-
chair, and you're our vice chair, so if you'd like, I'm sure our finance director can handle that, if you'd
I
like.
can do this.
All right.
Finance presents Resolution 82, resolution by Common Council of the City of Stoughton approving the agreement with Angus Young Associates Incorporated for architectural services related to the construction of a new Public Works facility. It was approved by Public Works on 4-1, with Alder Boersma voting no, and Finance approving 5-0. This is basically a contract for fulfilling the rest of the planning for and construction oversight for the Public Works facility, which will be being built hopefully in the next year or so.
We hope so. And would you like to make a motion?
And I motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Majewski, second by Jensen. Comments or discussion? Alderperson Hirsch.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask, and probably Brett or Tammy can answer this. I was looking through the contract, and I was looking at the responsibility list, and there's a number of things that says not provided. We're like on page, under Article 4.
What page are you on? Can you help direct
It's
us
harder.
there?
15.
Thank you.
Like the measured drawings, the modeling, the value analysis, and then the extensive environmental responsible design. Those are not provided by this contract, so who is going to be responsible for those, and how does that all fit in?
Sure. I think Director Abear can, or Rodney, either one, can speak to that one.
There's a scope of services that are covered under the basic services, and most of those are covered under the basic services. They're not part of additional services. So if you look in attachment A, outlines the scope of services, and those are actually part of the basic services, so they're not having to be enumerated as part of additional services with different costs associated with them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further comments, Brett, that you'd like to make regarding the contract?
Yes, basically went back and forth with Angus Young and working with Stafford Law, and to make sure that this contract is good for the city of Stoughton. They essentially submitted their first contract. It was a boilerplate contract that really would benefit the architect. And we went through that with our law experts on this particular portion of law, and essentially made it so it really does benefit the city of Stoughton and protects us going forward. So I feel confident that's a good contract for us. And also, when it comes to payment of the contract, we only pay for services rendered, which I think is important.
Great, thank you. Alderperson Truul.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brett, two questions for you. One, in terms of the schedule, do we have milestones that they're going to be hitting, and can you kind of call out what those might be?
Yeah, the biggest thing is milestone number 1 is tonight to approve the contracts. We can start essentially putting that together. We would like to, essentially, the end point is to go out for bid in early January. And so that's the steps we need to take in between now and then, we'll put together with Angus Young after we get the go-ahead to go with the contract.
And then one follow-up to that, and that as a part of that, has there been anything built in to do any type of preliminary cost analysis based on the plans? Again, that thought process of at 50% drawings, 80% drawings, something that we'll actually check to see if we're on budget?
Yes, going through the process as we go through different design elements, we'll go through a cost analysis to make sure that we're on track to hit our mark. And if we stray from that, then we need to come back to the drawing board and make sure we get back on track. So, yes.
Thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
Thank you, Your Honor. Everybody's aware that I am concerned about the total cost of this entire project, and concerned for the city in terms of being able to afford it. But second, maybe you could just review for us again, did this go on an RFP? Did you pick these particular folks at Angus Young through an RFP?
No, essentially this is professional services. This is who the city worked with back in 2013 to put together the initial plan. So we felt it was prudent to go with them moving forward instead of starting from square one.
That did come to council for council
Did.
approval to proceed
Yes.
not too long ago, so that's why we moved forward.
Just to follow up, then, the issue was that you had worked with them before and trusted them and feel that they're the best company to do the preliminary plans for this building.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Alderperson Hirsch.
As in attachment A, that kind of the environmental stuff is not actually listed. I was just wondering, that I can see on the fly, if you could kind of explain what kind of design and, sustainable energy efficiency designs that you guys are looking at for this building.
Any and all energy efficiency programs that we can tap into, grant opportunities, specifically looking at different types of solar, possibly even geothermal. So we're looking at all those different opportunities. Also keep in mind cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further comments? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Hirsch.
Aye.
Gittleson.
Aye.
Swadley.
Aye.
Boersma.
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Majewski.
Aye.
Engelberger.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Truul.
Aye.
Bartlett.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 9-1.
Thank you. Resolution 83 of 2017 comes from our Redevelopment Authority. Alderperson Truul.
Thank you, Your Honor. As most folks are aware, as a part of this demolition contract, we're anticipating a state grant of $150,000. Again, we went out for bidding, and the bid results came back. We had 5 bidders. The proposals came back between $330,000 and $530,000 and $530,000. And so we have a preferred low bidder who we believe will do a good job. Having said that, I would like to refer this to our second meeting in July, or either, and again, procedurally, I'm not sure whether we either refer it or table it until then. And I'll ask Matt to tell me what the appropriate motion on that is. But my purpose for that is, we have been told by the state that we'll be getting this matching grant of $150,000, but they haven't taken action on it yet, and they've indicated that we won't have action on it until the middle of July. So I want that in place before we move forward with issuing the rest of the contract. So,
Second.
Yeah, I think it's a motion to table until July
so
25th.
table until the second meeting in July.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I heard a second over here when I interrupted. So a motion by Truul, second by Alderperson Engelberger, to table until July 25th, 2017. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Resolution 84 of 2017 comes from our Personnel Committee. Alderperson Majewski.
Thank you, Your Honor. Personnel Committee presents Resolution 84 of 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated work rule callback policy as it relates to Public Works Department. Public Works, or Personnel approved 4-0, and I so move.
It's a motion by Alderman Majewski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jensen. Alderperson Majewski.
This is a update of work rules. They haven't been done for quite a while, and we're just going through a lot of things right now that are kind of lagging. And this is one of them, and I believe our illustrious HR person could probably handle this better than I could.
Thanks, AJ.
Exactly what Tom said is, we're going through doing an update of the work rules, and this was actually discussed back in February, but we wanted to bring a grouping of them together in front of you tonight. That's why we have so many items. What we're doing here is actually restoring and matching the Public Works Department to what we're currently doing in the Utilities Department. So it was an equity thing that needed to be corrected, and that's why it was approved by the Personnel Committee, is to go in and mirror it, the 2 hours versus the 1 hour.
And what does that mean for those at home that might not have this in front of them? 2 hours versus 1 hour?
2 hours minimum for the actual callback pay. So if an employee has to come back in, they're going to receive 2 hours versus 1 hour. That was changed to 1 hour back shortly after Act 10 was put in place. It was also an issue going on with the city where you were facing potential layoffs, and instead of doing that, you made some changes to the work rules and compensation. And this is one of the things that we felt needed to go back to the 2 hour minimum, and the employees had asked for, and it does mirror what we're already doing at the Utilities Department. So it's just an equity to make it occur for all employees that are actually affected by this.
And it has a fiscal impact of $724.50. Where will that come from?
All of the impacts that you'll see that are affecting the Public Works will be coming from the existing Public Works budget. So we had tasked Brett with trying to stretch his budget a little bit further and move things around to make this occur, and he has done so.
All right, thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
Thank you, Ron. Just to clarify then, the callback policy would allow for basically an additional hour if they have to come back. That does not include additional work time, or does it, or what? Could you explain that further?
Absolutely. If the employee has to come back in, right now, the way that the policy for Public Works is, they get paid 1 hour. That would change to 2 hours, and then the hours that they're working are actually paid at their regular rate of pay, unless they're exceeding the 40 hours.
Okay, I asked the question just to clarify it,
Sure.
because it's not that they're only going to be paid for the 2 hours. They're going to be paid for their time plus 2 hours for having to come back.
That is correct.
Okay.
I don't believe so. No, that is
No.
if something would happen. I'll let you explain.
So what'll happen if they get called back? So let's say they leave work, they're dismissed from work, and they have to come back to do a task for the community because it's an emergency. And let's say they only work an hour and a half. They get paid for 2 hours. That's it.
But we're
So-
saying if they work 4 hours,
So.
that's what Sid was trying to clarify.
If
Right.
they
So
work
if you
4
get
hours,
paid
they get
4
paid
hours,
4
they get paid
hours.
for 4 hours.
Yep.
If it's over 40,
Yep.
according to FLSA, that's time and a half.
Time and a half, exactly.
Yeah, it's a
We were talking
minimum
two
of
different
2
ways.
hours. If they're called in for a 15-minute phone call,
That's-
it's a I don't want to say it, a perk for
It's a
being
perk.
on call, right? I'm
Yeah,
coming
so-
in for 15 minutes, but you're going to pay me for 2 because I got here to do what
Right.
I needed to do.
Right.
But I want to be clear on that. If I work beyond 2 hours, I'm going to get my regular hourly rate unless I'm beyond 40.
Absolutely.
So it's not a maximum of 2 hours.
No, minimum.
Correct.
Absolutely. Yep. Other questions regarding Resolution 84? Council President Swadley.
Thank you. Just a quick one. So how does that typically work? I mean, who determines that they need to come in or they don't need to come in?
So we have on-call staff, and it usually goes to the PD. If someone were to call and say there's a tree down in the middle of the road, or a stop sign got hit, then they would essentially dispatch and come in to remediate the situation. So we looked at our past numbers when it comes to callback time, and it's really very minimal. It does happen, of course, but the fiscal impacts to me are not a real concern in order to keep consistency across the board.
We had a total of 30 hours in 2016 of callback.
Oh, okay. And
So
it's
very,
usually
very minimal.
a public safety issue.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alderperson Bartlett, I'm sorry, I lost your name there for a moment. I'm sorry, Matt.
Thank you. Can you just elaborate on the fiscal impact again? At the top, it was around $700 impact, but on that cost for callback and on-call, it says around $724 for callback costs, but on-call costs would be an additional $2,800.
Yeah, that's 624 total hours. So we're referring to this document here that's in your packet. The on-call for the callback for 2016 was 30 hours. On-call was 624 total on-call hours. So there's two different types of categories,
Yeah, so the on-call and callback are two totally separate
2 categories.
items.
But the on-call cost won't be additional?
No, that's already a fixed cost.
Okay,
That's in the next resolution.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. All right, seeing no further questions, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? That motion carries. Resolution 85 of 2017 also comes from Personnel. Alderperson Mieski.
Thank you, Your Honor. Personnel presents Resolution 85, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated work rules on call policy as it relates to Public Works Department. Personnel Committee approved 4-0, and I so move.
Motion by Mieski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Boersma. Alderperson Mieski.
Again, this is a updating of the work rules and some cleanup. It's again another equity issue that darn utilities keeps on throwing monkey wrenches in things, and we need to have that stopped, by the way. And this is regarding on how people are called in.
Thank you, and I'll look to AJ and Brett.
Yeah, this one here is specifically the on-call portion. If you look on that memo, again, we talked about on-call hours. We're again doing the same exact thing that we did before in regards to the callback. We were at 14 hours prior to Act 10. After Act 10 and where we were struggling, we changed it back to 12 hours. Utilities is currently at 14 hours, so we would like to mirror that again and have Public Works be the same exact policy going from 12 to 14. And then that would be updated in the work rules, provided this is approved. And again, the fiscal impact of this one, if you look on that page, it says costs for callback and on-call. Like I had said, in 2016, we had 624 total hours, and we used the 52 weeks to come up with the 624. And then the cost to make the change was $2834.03. And that's for the Public Works to make that equal.
Right, thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
And AJ, could you briefly just discuss the differences between regular hours and holiday hours? How that impacts, is there?
Okay, I think that one's coming up yet. This one's still talking about on-call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
I am talking about on-call though, I mean, is
Okay.
there?
The difference between on-call and regular hours. What's an on-call hour, Brett?
Well, on call, essentially, they get paid 14 hours. If approved, currently they're paid 12 hours to be on call.
And explain what that means.
What does-
on
yeah.
call.
So essentially, they're at the ready to be called in case of emergencies in the community. So
On
they do
on
carry
off-work
They
hours,
do carry
correct.
a
Yep.
cell phone, so essentially they're at the city's mercy and have to essentially be able to respond in a timely manner. And so that means they can't take family vacations, they can't, leave the city.
They're restricted.
They're restricted from doing their own personal business. So they're compensated at 12 hours currently. We'd like to make that equitable with utilities at 14.
My very brief question was whether or not that it applies for every day of the year, or if does it apply differently for holidays?
No, we have staff on call every day of the year.
Thank you. Alderperson Hirsch.
So if you're on call, you get paid your regular salary for the time that you're on call, and why? So you would be on a 14-hour shift for on-call, or?
That's just what your paid is at the rate of 14 hours, at your current rate
Okay,
for that 1 week period of time.
well, just for that 1 week, so,
Yep, somebody else goes on call that next week.
okay, so you only get paid 14 hours for a whole week?
So that's 14 hours just to be on call. Now, if you're dispatched to come in, then that counts towards that
Callback.
that 40 hours in a work week.
Okay,
So then you get paid at your regular hourly rate to come in and respond if you do work.
And this
So that
is very
14 hours is just to be on call.
Right. Very customary for folks in an emergency role like our Public Works group does. As well as utilities. If they need to be called back in, they get compensated accordingly.
well, I mean, that wasn't
Yep.
my question
No, but
at
I wanted
all.
to be sure anyone at home was aware of that. It's kind of,
Well, I'm still not clear, so
Okay.
you work your regular work day, and then for that night, you might be on call.
You're on call
You're
for
on-
that week.
Yes, you're essentially on call at 4 o'clock when you leave until 6:30 the next morning. You're on call to respond.
For a whole week, and you just get paid 14 hours extra
Yes.
just for that week, not 14 hours a day extra?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep,
All right.
total.
Total comp is
I
14
could get
hours for the
expensive.
whole week.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Public Works field would be blowing up with applicants.
Well, I'm just clarifying.
No,
'cause it
that's
wasn't-
good. Good to clarify. All right, further questions?
Thanks.
Yep.
Discuss it.
Scott?
I was just
I'm
going to
sorry, I
point out.
didn't see you.
Yeah, I was
Your-
just going to point out that when we were talking about the 12 or 14 hours, we're talking about per week. So effectively, they're paid 2 hours of on-call time per day for 7 days to get to the 14. It's kind of the way to look at it. It's not,
Yep.
Sure.
And in the wording, if you read that, it says 12 hours for on-call status during the work week, or 14 hours for on-call status during the work week.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 86 of 2017 comes from our Personnel Committee. Alderperson Maskey.
Surprise. Personnel presents Resolution 86, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the retroactive pay associated with updated work rules on-call policy, which was approved on March 6, 2017, as it relates to the Public Works Department. It was approved by Personnel 4-0, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderperson Maskey, second by Alderperson Boersma. Thank you. Alderperson Maskey.
I'll just send this right over to Director Cunningham.
Okay. What we're looking for here is based on the callback policy that we just approved, to be able to go back and retroactively pay those employees. It's a minimal amount. If you look on the two documents that I provided as backup, it's a total of 26 hours, totaling $616.22. So we're asking to go back to the beginning of the year and make that effective. And again, that's coming through, as I had stated before, Director Aber's budget for 2017. And again, that's to make things consistent so that all employees were paid callback the same way for 2017.
Comments or questions? Alderperson Kittleson.
I've got a question. How does this happen when you guys were discussing like the utilities? And then these other employees hear word that the utilities are getting this and then they come back to you guys and ask for it?
Exactly what happened, yes.
Why is that?
There was a discussion that took place with utilities. We were losing staff back in was it early or late 2016, Bob?
Later.
Late 2016. And it was approved to make that change at the meeting. So then Public Works had heard about it and asked, can we make this happen for us as well? And the work rules state that it's the 12 hours. That's why we're coming back and saying this can't happen. That was the comment that Tom had made.
Yeah.
This needs to stop. These are the policies. We're updating the work rules. So we need to go back, in our opinion, and make it right for all staff. It's only two groups that are affected.
So in another month, were we going to have another group of so-called employees coming and saying the same thing?
Shouldn't.
There are no
Well, we
other
shouldn't.
groups
There's
affected.
no more.
There are
So
no
this is
other groups
everything.
affected
This is
by
everything.
those. Yep.
At all.
So we're done with all of this stuff.
For the callback and for those types of
Yep.
things, absolutely.
Because I remember it was like 3-4 months ago, we had discussed some of these things that were going on like this. And with the Springstead study and so forth, that everything was supposed to be caught up and clarified.
Oh, well, no, we can't say, I'm looking right at AJ. As far as this particular item, the callback and the on-call.
Right.
There are only these two groups that
That are affected by
utilities
it.
and public works that are affected by that.
Correct.
Now, could there be a question in the Springstead study? Absolutely.
study is
That's
completely
a
different.
fluid
I-
document.
I realize
Absolutely.
that, but I mean, it seems like every time we come to this, it's always like one group of people are paid, and then another group hear about it, and then all of a sudden they keep coming back, so.
Sure.
Just so everybody's aware around the table, I have gone through and rewritten the work rules. And I met with the leadership group last week and explained to them to get our arms around this instead of having inconsistencies. I took 2 full days and spent 16+ hours rewriting the work rules to make sure that they are not only legally compliant, but consistent across the city of Stoughton, because I'm seeing those inconsistencies, and it's equally as frustrating to me as it is to the staff as these things are brought forward. So how we're going to handle that is we're going to have 4 meetings with the leadership group, go through and section off so that we spend the appropriate amount of time really digging into these and making sure that every department is represented and that we talk about what the work rules are and how they affect each of those departments and what our recommendations are to the Personnel Committee and then to the council. So we're going to be holding those 4 meetings. over the next 2 months. And then by late August, we're going to have a draft that goes to personnel first. We're going to get their authorization, and then we'll be bringing that finalized work rule book to you to take a look at all the red lines and what we're making for recommendations. We need to stop this.
I would
And-
agree with you on
And
having
that's why I
equality
took the
is-
time and said, this is it. We need to get a nice, clean set of work rules and not be working off from a copy that a change was made to try to make it apply to everyone after Act 10. Then there were some changes that occurred. Then there were policies that were written. Those aren't tied into the work rules. It needs to be one consistent document that everybody's following. And if it's a difference between departments, that it's spelled out. So that's what's coming forward.
All I can say is I think that's a great thing, and I wish more things like that would be done through the city of revising policies
thank
so
you.
that more equality is here. So
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been working on it, a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
Long time coming. All right, questions regarding Resolution 86. Alderperson Hirsch.
I just have a quick question, because we have utilities and public works that fall under this. Where does the police and fire department fall with respect to on-call and all that? Is that something that's going to be coming up that's going to be different, or did we already address that the last
It's
time?
completely different because they're governed through their union contract. So the union contract lies separate from this. And then also, most of that, if we had a question regarding policy or procedure, that would be going through the Police and Fire Commission. So completely different.
Although fire and EMS, those are volunteer, what do I want to say, staff. So they are on call, but they're paid a stipend on call. How did I say? I said that wrong. They're paid a stipend for every call they go on while they are indeed on call. An EMT isn't paid just to be on call. They're paid per call that they go on. So again, a little different than public works or utilities. Fire, again, they're paid a stipend at the end of every year, but there are some rules and regulations that they have to follow in order to obtain that stipend at the end of the year.
Separate
So,
work
little
rules as
different,
well.
different work rules,
So
yeah.
we'll need to, I've been working with Lisa on the work rules down at the EMS. We'll need to touch on next the fire department.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
With
you.
no further questions, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 87 back in 2017. I am just saying, Alderman Mayeski, that there was a time, it was a while ago, that if you had this many agenda items in a row, you had to wear like a clown wig or something. It used to be passed around for a bit.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, so you're lucky tonight, because Resolution 87 comes from personnel. Alderperson Mayeski.
Well, personnel's been very busy, and we have been working.
Very happy.
So this is Resolution 87, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the update to the work rules holiday policy to change holiday compensation from 3.5 times to double time for working the holiday plus 8 hours for the day 3 times. Personnel approved 4-1 with Alder O'Connor voting no, and I so move.
Is there a second? Motion by Mayeski, second by Council President Swadley. Alderperson Mayeski.
This is another consistency change between how employees are paid at the holiday time. We had a couple of different issues that came up with it, and this is another cleanup of to make consistency, so that all employees are paid the same when it comes to holidays.
Correct, as well as, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, looking at different cities and identifying how they took care of things as well. So further explanation.
This actually ties into the days that we had union in place. And that's where Tom's talking about the inconsistency. It's inconsistency between regular staff being union staff and now being non-union. So under their union negotiation, they were being paid 8 hours regular time, 8 hours at time and a half, and then they would on top of that get 8 hours for comp time. So what we're asking to do is pay them double time for the holiday, which is consistently what we see the other municipalities doing, and then giving them the 8 hours for the holiday. So it's reducing it by 0.5.
Correct. Comments or questions? Okay, Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Resolution 88 of 2017 comes from our Personnel Committee. Alderman Mieski.
Personnel presents Resolution 88, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated hiring policy for leadership positions. Personnel Committee approved 4-0, and I so move.
And I second.
Motion by Mieski, second by Boersma. Alderman Mieski.
This was a request from council to look at how personnel went about hiring of leadership positions, or better known, or also known as department heads. This is the department head leadership position is a term that goes back and forth, and the correct term should be leadership, not department heads. But this was brought up by council to find a better procedure and policy for how we go about hiring that position. And I think we've come up with a pretty good one, and hopefully you will all approve it.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say we really labored over this one, both myself and the Personnel Committee, and making sure that, based on the feedback that we had from the council, that we're meeting your expectations in the way that this policy has been written and how we're moving forward with hiring leadership positions. So I hope everybody took the time to go through this. This is based on your feedback, and again, like I said, it was vetted through the Personnel Committee, who also were trying to make sure that we were coming together and making sure that everything from the council side was being met. So at this point, we feel that we have a great document that we've put together, a good policy that we can follow, and definitely gives us the direction that we need for appropriately hiring positions.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Sure, Alderperson Boersma.
I would just add that we've had this discussion probably at 3 or 4 of our last personnel meetings to talk about it, because we really did recognize that the council wanted additional information when hiring a leadership position. So we've discussed this one at length.
Thank you. Further comments, questions? Council President Swedley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think this does meet the intent and the direction that the council gave the committee, so I appreciate them for doing that. Maybe one thing you can do is just send me a memo just to remind me exactly what all the leadership positions are,
Oh, sure.
because some of them have changed, and I want to make sure that I'm up to date on that, and hopefully we'll, maybe have one more position. I don't know if that one's going to be a leadership IT.
Yep.
So you can include that on there as well.
Sure.
Yep. And if you would send that to all alderpersons, please, that'd be great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderperson Hirsch.
Was there a red line
Yep.
at the very back? There's a different red line. How is that different from the draft up front of what exactly changed? Because I was looking at, if there's no changes to the position, but I'm trying to figure out who determines if there's no changes to the position, and then it goes just to, I think that was the biggest thing, was HR, and I guess if a leadership position is vacant, can you just walk me through who determines if the position description does not need to be changed?
That would come from the mayor, because it's a direct report from the mayor.
Okay.
So if there's nothing changing within the scope of the position, then we go under where it says leader on the first page. The Personnel Committee will provide the authorization for the Human Resources Risk Management Director to move forward. So I'm receiving my direction from the committee at that point. So they would talk with the mayors attending that meeting. We would talk about the position itself, what we're hiring. And if there are no changes and it's agreed upon there, then they would give me the authorization to move forward.
Okay.
Through the personnel.
Through the Personnel Committee?
Correct.
Okay,
Through that
so that
committee.
was the change, is that?
Collectively, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason the two look different, Regina, was I had to change the format for it to make sense. So when you're looking at the other one, if you read through it and then you read the new one, you can see where it ties in, but
Yeah.
it's not a direct red line by any means, because I had to change that.
Well, I know, that's why I was like,
Yeah,
oh, you.
nope, that's a great question.
So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Sure.
So that was the big change, is that if there's no changes, it's actually the Personnel Committee and the mayor making that decision that there's no changes to
changes.
this. Okay.
Right. Further questions, comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Resolution 89 of 2017 comes from our Personnel Committee. Alderman Mieski.
Resolution 89, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated hiring policy for full and regular part-time positions. Personnel approved, 5-0, and I so move.
And I second.
Motion by Mieski, second by Boersma. Alderman Mieski.
This is basically doing the same thing that we did for the leadership positions, but this is for people who are not in leadership.
Thank you. Comments, or AJ?
Again, it's the same type of thing, Regina. If you notice, the formats are different again, but that was for clarity and to make it be able to flow and make sense in regards to how we hired. And then step by step, if somebody's looking to change the job description, how they go through that process, as well as how they request to fill a position. We're not going to just fill a position. It's documenting that process, that it comes to the mayor and myself, and then from there, it walks you through step by step if it's denied, what the right is to appeal. So I think it, again, lays out very clearly, step by step, what needs to happen in the event that we're trying to fill a position or looking for a new position.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 90 of 2017 comes from the Personnel Committee. Alderman Mieski, I'm surprised you have another item.
Long time no hear. Resolution 90, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the updated position description and title change of forester/machine operator to city forester. Personnel Committee approved 4-0, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Mieski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Boersma. Alderman Mieski.
We had an opening with the forester machine operator position, and we thought this was a good time to update that position to what the city actually needs, which is a full-time forester to oversee the urban forest. We are hitting a point where the urban forest is in need of some very professional help, and this will take care of that.
Okay, Director Abear, comments, please?
Yes, essentially we went through and rewrote the entire job description to essentially outline and focus on the core duties of this job that we need as a forester to, like Brent Mieski mentioned, to manage the urban forest. Essentially, we have over 6,000 assets, being trees, that we need to manage, and we need a professional to do that and to allow this person to focus on that job versus being a machine operator as well. Now, we did build into the job description to include other duties as assigned. In the public works field, you are sometimes a jack of all trades, and this person will be performing snow operations with us. And if we do have an emergency situation come up, they may be serving a different role for us. But their core function will be as a forester.
Just a clarification there. Brett had said the snow operations. This person will also, as it states in the job description, if you didn't see it, have an assigned route for snow plowing. So that's the dedication to that piece there, is an assigned route.
Thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
I did want to just ask the Public Works Director what the fiscal impact is for this change from what was a position as an arborist, right?
I can actually answer that.
Or was it was a forester, I
Forester
believe.
machine
I can
operator.
actually answer that one. This position was graded by Springstead and did come back this morning. It was a grade level 9 and remains at a grade level 9 because of the forester responsibilities that were in there before. It was weighted heavily on the forestry responsibilities and scored higher than a standard machine operator, which is a level 7. So there's no change to the grade level or fiscal impact there, but it is focused now more on the forestry than it is on the machine operator portion. So the difference is 7 and 9 grade levels.
And I do have a follow-up with that is that there was discussion last year, I believe, about additional positions necessary to that the forestry department, so to speak. And I intend to at least raise that again this year as we are a tree city. We have a lot of trees. We've got a lot of issues related to forestry. And I think having it with one person, in my humble opinion, is a bit much for one person to handle this whole situation.
Thank you. Council President Swedley.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, as I understand it, some of the responsibilities, there's more emphasis on the forestry part of it. So as far as the machine operations part of it, is somebody else going to take care of some of them responsibilities? Or are you going to look at possibly filling another position in the next budget cycle to help with that?
So this person will be responsible for administering the urban forest and putting all the programs together, but they'll also be required to operate, the boom truck and the chipper, so they'll be in the field as well. And we don't have a litany of personnel to choose from to go out and do these, provide these services, so this person will have to do the actual work on the ground as well. Through the budget process, we can, of course, ask for more personnel, which we intend to do so, but that has to go through the budget process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Alderperson Kittleson.
Yeah, and their physical requirements, you guys have struck in skill in climbing with ropes. And there's another section where you have the use of roping. But then you have under just 2 bullet points up, environmental ability, you also are asking for a combination of climbing and balancing. So you're not asking for people to be using ropes to climb around the trees.
No, the balancing, and that comes from a job analysis questionnaire, I believe. And so that basically states that this person is physically able to perform the essential functions of the job.
With the word of climbing in there. And then you have the ropes pulled off where they're not going to climb with ropes. So I guess my question is the understanding of people that have done arborist work at our house. They climb all the trees. We don't bring any heavy equipment in. They don't drive any trucks in there. And part of the reason for that is so they don't compact the soil on the roots to possibly kill the trees. But here, you're not going to ask those people to do the trimming like that. They're just going to come in with an aerial bucket.
The section you're referring to, is that the physical requirements?
Yeah.
Because climbing is part of climbing over a piece of equipment or something like that. That's just part of the job analysis questionnaire to make sure that they can crouch, walk,
Okay,
stand, hear.
But so then the other part is that you're not going to ask them to be able to climb up in a tree and use ropes and so forth to do what you're just going to do with aerial lifts?
Most of our work is from the street, as it's, the park grill, the terrace. So we don't go in backyards. Of course, we do go in parkland, but we typically do not go in backyards. There's really not a need to do that. If somebody comes in with that expertise, we can utilize that, then that's great.
So that would be a bonus if somebody has
Absolutely.
that knowledge behind them.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 91 of 2017 comes from our Personnel Committee. Alderman Majewski.
Now for something different. Resolution 91, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve the move forward with the hiring for position of city forester with updated title and position description using grade, step, and compensation from Springstead determination. This position would be funded from the 2017 budget at $23.20 per hour with budgeted benefits. Personnel Committee approved 4-0, and I so move.
I second.
Motion by Majewski, second by Boersma. Alderman Majewski.
Description is self-explanatory.
Thank you.
No further comments.
Okay. Brett? Nope. Bree?
It's a budgeted item.
Okay. Sure. Questions? Alderperson Hirsch.
I was just looking at, this one versus your updated one, and it seems like your education, training, and certification is a little bit different or is not as pronounced, and this job description one it's really designated as like associate degree. I mean, it's kind of, it's in the other one, but it's not as, laid out as nicely and as more professional as you did in here. Can you explain?
I can explain that, but we're on a different resolution.
Okay.
We've moved on to the resolution.
I know, but those two are linked?
Yes, it's not in, this format is Brett's format. It'll be moved over to the city's format.
Okay.
That's the only difference there from Resolution 90.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So to answer that, good, that's great for catching it,
right.
but it just hasn't been put, Ginny hasn't put it in our format yet.
Okay.
So before we go out and actually post the position, it'll move on to the city standard format.
The city standard format that's on 91, that's the better format
Yeah.
then? Okay.
Yep, you got it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Further comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Resolution 92 of 2017 comes from Personnel Committee. Alderman Mieski.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, I was a little sassy.
Resolution 92, 2017, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve an annual period for employees to request the Springstead study position grade be reviewed due to qualified change as outlined in the request for reconsideration with a deadline of May as the annual for submission of request with the exception of 2017, which is this year, which will be July. And the committee has approved 4-0, and I so move.
And I second.
Motion by Mieski, second by Boersma. Alderman Mieski.
This is a function that the employees can take if they want, if they think that they are not being compensated correctly for the work that they are doing. And there's a procedure that they can go through, and it usually will start in May, will be in May. But because of this year, we're past May, we're giving a deadline of July.
Thank you. Director Gillingham.
Exactly what Tom said. What this is giving the employee the opportunity, now that we have the Springstead study in place, that in the event that they feel that their position has had major changes to it within the qualifications outlined in the attachment, that they have the right to complete that. Their director, leadership member would also need to complete that, and then it'll be forwarded on to me, and I'll forward it to Springstead. It has to meet the qualifications, so it's not just a matter of every year I fill this out and I want my grade level to be increased. It's a matter of you have to have the qualifiers. So this just gives the opportunity to the employee to have their position looked at in the event that they think something has changed.
Great, thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
So, AJ, just in the event that Springstead does update a position or looks at it or whatever, do they have a deadline date to get back to us to do that?
We will definitely establish that. We have to be able to have, the reason I chose the month of May and presented that to personnel was so that we had adequate time to get it into the next budget period. So we will work with Springstead to establish those deadlines.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderperson Engelberger.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got a problem with this one. What's the current situation? How do they handle it currently?
We just implemented the study at 100% now.
If a person has a problem now,
There is no process.
there's no process. They can't come to you and say, I want to change this?
Right now, what an employee has done is sent me an email and said, could you look at this?
Right. So now we're going to change this, so it's a one-time a year. You miss your one time, too bad.
Correct. And
I have a problem with that.
the reason, the thought process behind that is that we need to be able to put this into budgeting and look at the position as a whole and be looking at it as a whole. I don't have an opportunity myself to know what's happening within every position. So that's why we put this in place so that the employee has the opportunity to have their position looked at.
Yeah.
And it's the grade level that we're looking at.
I'm voting against this.
Okay, thank you. Further
It's
comments
wrong.
or questions? Alderperson Kittleson.
Actually, I think it's a really good idea. The whole idea behind it, you also have the leadership person who has to submit. So it's not on to you, it's the employee going to the leadership,
Right.
discussing it, they're on the same page, then it comes to HR. To me, it's a good idea, then we're not gonna come back here where different departments are different money.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, it's like you said, we set a budget. I mean, everybody's gotta deal with the budget. You can't just all of a sudden keep coming back and saying, oh, we need this more money. But yeah, I would say that you guys, this group here, you guys have done I feel, a very good job, the Personnel Committee, of cleaning up some stuff that needs to be cleaned up.
They have done a great job. Alderperson Hirsch.
Just to follow up, I think it's really good that we have a policy, but what happens with the exceptions? And say after May, you have an employee that another employee like leaves, and now they have extra responsibilities, and we're not hiring a new person for a long period of time, and so their responsibilities go up, their grade level should actually go up. How will those like exceptions be worked at? Do they have to wait till May to get it resolved, or can it be resolved sooner?
It depends, I mean, that's one of those where it depends on what happens. Let's say, for example, I left my position and Ginny took my position and my responsibilities on. She would be stepping into a different position that has a job description and an assigned grade level. So taking on those duties would move her potentially into that. That also would take us back to our new policy and procedure for hiring either a staff member or hiring somebody at the leadership level. So those policies would all lay on top of that. In the event that somebody leaves and you take on additional responsibilities, that happens in all organizations. And that's why we said, we're going to look at, typically you wouldn't ask somebody, we had it happen in accounting. A couple individuals left, one person had a medical situation, and it was a temporary thing, but it was a temporary thing for a while. And there's no change that's made. That's one of those things that unfortunately falls under the other duties as assigned. And the person helps pick up, and the team actually help there. But in the event that they're applying for a different position, or they're taking duties of a higher level, that's a job position that falls into our policies and procedures we established under those two policies this evening. So we'd be looking at replacing those positions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Alderperson Boersma.
I just would like to hear more from Alder Engelberger as to why he is objecting to this. I'm not quite sure I understand, Mike.
So
If you're comfortable.
this is not worker-friendly. This is not employee-friendly. Half the time we lose people, and, we wonder why we lose people. Give them another reason. There you go. Oh, I missed my turn. Well, I guess I'll wait till next May for my raise. That's BS.
Thank you. Director Gillingham.
I think keeping in mind, we've gone through this process of Springstead and already filled out these position analysis questionnaires, and that's tied into what the employee's doing here. Not to say there's never going to be an exception to a rule. If something happens, like Regina was saying, and we do end up having to not fill a position for some reason, let's say it's a financial, that's a different situation than what we're talking about here. If you're asking someone to take on another position, that may be one of those exceptions that the Personnel Committee looks at and may come forth, but I don't see that being the norm. The norm here, what we're looking at is, Brett has asked me to take on something at a higher level, and I'm doing it on a regular basis, and going into the next year's budget, that's going to be something that he continues. Otherwise, I'm going to be bringing these to you with what Dennis had asked me before. How many more retros are you going to come to me with? That's the situation we're going to set ourselves up for, is the retro pays. How far back do we go in this situation? Who qualifies? Who doesn't qualify? What responsibilities being added on would qualify? So I think here it's at least giving us some clear direction as to what our general guidelines are. If there's exceptions, then we look at those.
And I think all our job descriptions say in other duties as
Assigned.
directed or as assigned. And then if there is enough of a change or that big change, that's when we'd come back for almost a new job description, right?
Right.
Alderperson Hirsch.
Well, I was just wondering if, and I don't know if you guys do this, do you do like performance reviews every, not necessarily, where the leader has a review with their staff, individual staff every year to make sure that they're meeting the goals and objectives, not only of the job description, and if you do that, then you actually then identify that maybe they're doing a little bit more, and then that when the leadership actually asks for the raise for the person, is that done on a yearly basis?
No, because keep in mind how our performance is being handled, or our increases are being handled. Some departments are doing reviews, some are not, and that's the next thing that we're working on with personnel, is a consistent format for all employees. What's happening right now is we receive a cost of living increase. So it's not tied to performance, it's not tied to anything. It's once a year, and during that discussion, it's not tied to their performance or performance review. So for the last, I can't tell you how many years, it has never been tied to their actual performance.
So with your performance review at that, is that yearly, or is that just, and then if it's identified that they're doing more, do they actually get a raise, or do you have to reclassify them, or?
No, the way that it's worked so far is the positions have been graded through the position analysis questionnaire, and that went to Springstead. They gave the actual position and then placed each employee in the scale based on where they were currently at. So if you remember, 2 years ago, we moved everybody who was not at minimum up to minimum. Last year then, we moved everybody up to the next step, plus they had an increase of a percentage. So they had a percentage plus up to the next step unless they were capped, and there's no more steps to go. So it has nothing to do right now with a performance review at all whatsoever. Those are two separate things. One has been the cost of living increase and the movement within the Springstead study for the last 2 years. And then the review itself, completely separate.
So how do you get, so within that, how do you get to the next step? So as an employee, you just stay stagnant at the step that you are now, or how do you get to the next step?
Well, keep in mind, we're only 2 years into the study.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, how is this going to work?
That's what the Personnel Committee is working on, is how do you continue to progress through the scale. Last year, what we did was they got an increased percent, and then they moved on to the step. So a lot of them sat a couple cents under a step, some of them more than that, but they got moved onto the step for the first year. So we are just in the infant stages of starting to move through the progression of the Springstead study within the scale. So their grade levels were established, where they're at in the scale was established based on their previous pay, and if they weren't within the scale, then they moved up to minimum the first year, and then the next year it was a percentage plus onto the next step.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Yeah, so,
this has been a whole new process.
Well, I know, because with an employee, they need to know how they're going to get, what they need to do to get to that next step. I mean,
And
it was pretty clear when I worked with the federal government, it'd be, it's nice.
yeah, and the way it's been here at the city, previously, they get a cost of living increase, and that's how they know what that next bump is going to be. So this is a little bit different in that it's based on percentages and based on our budgeting. We don't make any adjustments throughout the year unless there's a major change within, like I said, somebody changes positions.
Okay.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Nope.
That motion carries with
Move to
one
adjourn.
no. That was so fast.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderperson Jensen, second
He's
by
in that
Alderperson
seat.
True to adjourn. Thank you, AJ.
Welcome.
That is that chair.
Jeez.
Okay.